everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we're here with the Universe League Challenge 1. We have our first 3 groups up to bat. I'm excited for it. So what we're going to be doing is looking at the full cams, because that's what we do around here. We don't have any manipulative camera work or anything. We just have them performing it with live vocals and things that they can give us. I do know that this is probably one take of really any take that the actual directors could have seen, as well as the audience. We don't really know if there's an audience involved in the actual Universe League takes that we're going to see too. So I know all of that going in. Also, we are going to look at the originals before looking at the actual Universe League equivalences, because most of these tracks I don't believe I have heard before. I've never really seen Wavy, which is super dope. I've seen 10. And then Triple S, I've never really watched them either. And with B2B, I don't know if I've heard the song. So, all that to say, we're going in, getting our palettes cleansed and understanding what we're supposed to be looking at. We're going to look at each group, do an analysis of them before moving on to the next. I have no idea what's going to get cut for YouTube and what's not, because I'm dealing with full cams for music shows, and those are so freaking hard. It's like a roulette on whether or not they get blocked. So pray for us so we can get this full thing out, no problem. We'll see though. Let's go ahead and get into it. First up, Wavy's Give Me That. It's got a boom bap, but the rhythmic pattern reminds me of EXO, doesn't it? So SM. Nice. That was cool. I like the syncopated choices. It just makes you want to do it, and when they do it, it's so satisfying, right? Nice. I am shocked right now that those tattoos are out, because I know 10 has them, unless those are meant for concept. I really like that. Bum, 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 bum. Nice. I like the dancers' vibes too. Fun. Nice. So you got some party move aesthetic about it, which is nice. Okay. Pretty gregarious, pretty fun. Definitely enjoyable for sure. All right, we got Give Me That. This is the first team. This is Wavy's team, right? I also know this. We got the first strings equivalent. So we have our bench teams. So they are going to most likely be next week. So we're just looking at the first strings of each group today. I get that. Here for it. Let's go. Ready. Huh. Whoa, whoa, sorry. We reworked it? Okay. That's supposed to be a wave? Okay. Okay. So interesting. They reworked it. Well, I don't know whose call it was either. Like, we don't know any of that. Or maybe y'all do and I don't. I don't. So, I mean, I'll find that out in the episode. I don't know how I feel about the rework because there's always a risk, like checks and balances that get had whenever you do stuff like this, right? Do I think they went with the rework in order for it to not feel like we're just covering Wavy? I think that's a natural assumption. I think that's absolutely okay. There's a lot of choreo that changed too, just based off of what we just watched Wavy do and then seeing this here. Wavy had more of a gimmicky, gregarious funk, not really funk influence, but like a party influence. This one felt more, I don't know, like we were showing more of a tease, if that makes sense. So I don't know if this direction was the best call, I think. I don't know, guys. I'm gonna be real. It could just be chalked up. I'm allowed to have my preference, and I think that's absolutely okay. I think there was some areas that could have been cleaner for sure. And yes, I know a lot of people are like, well, NCT, they're known, like the NCT World Wavy's in that, right? They're known for individuality and blah, 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 blah. If we're choosing to rework a song to help tailor to your group, on a competitive side like Universe League, an expectation is going to be cleanliness, especially because if we're going off of how they've been evaluating the members of this competition, synchronicity is going to be a priority on the show. So that is okay for us as an audience to expect that going in too. For me, if I was a director in their position, I would also expect it, and I would tell them that I'm looking for that as well. So because it shows thoroughness and it shows completion of practice, right? So this wasn't the cleanest. There were some techniques that were off as well. There were just some choices that kind of felt like this just gave just a K-pop boy group. It didn't feel unique. There wasn't a unique element in it. So it could work in their favor. It could not. But that's just going off of my experience on doing analysis for competition shows, as well as looking at a ton of K-pop choreography. But here we go. Tone, they held it down pretty well. He says, haha, did you notice it was like a really fun, playful beginning, but we're supposed to go super, like, not seductive, but definitely more serious approach, which I find to be an interesting take, you know? It's just not as believable. It could be that too. Like there's no oomph and depth to the movement to me in comparison to, I felt like the movement was calibrated to the type of gregariousness or more happy tone of the Wavy original, because we saw the boom bop, the rock and the bounce, and we saw a lot of the rooftop influence. I really like you got to see the depth and the change of tone and texture. Here it kind of feels plateaued to me. I'm allowed to feel that way. You don't have to agree. That's fine. I like the accent of the column is fine. He says, baby that, give me that. So we go, he hits it, boom, boom. So everybody holds it down pretty well. I do know, I mean, I know all of them. You know, could I remember their names? Is that in the middle? Is that, I'm trying to think, was this, who, because I forgot who went to which team. If we're going off of movement quality, my guy in center looks like JL, possibly. I don't freaking know. Anyway, so I like the little speed change on that. Was really fun. That boom, boom, boom is fine in the back. They bring it up, which is also fine. They do a little wave out of it. That's also fine. He goes, I hit, click, click. I really like his mannerisms that he chooses to do with his head. Boom, boom. It does keep him featured, but also makes it match the track quite well. Because there is a way where you can do choreo. You can be given any choreo you want. and how you calibrate it to your track, that's your musicality, that's your texture. That to me, I feel like some movement, some features, like I would say in the case of my JL today, if that is who it is, if he, what's the word? He calibrated his texture to match the part of the music very well. I like the feature moment there. Did everybody do that for all their parts? No. That's okay, because remember, we're growing. It's a growing experience for everyone. We're here for it, whatever, right? I like the subtlety on that. The pickup is nice. So it goes tap, tap, tap. And I like the head nods on that. The drop down's cool. Down we go. And we reset those hands down, which is fun. I like the smile. That was fun. Head on that is also cool. And then we do nice little steps to transition. He lifts the arm up. He has everybody looking over there, which is fine to help match the direction of the hand. We turn it to the other way. We do a nice little head on this too. The kickball change, not the crispness that I think it needed to be for that part. There's a certain part of the music that they were supposed to hit that they didn't hit because all I saw was that wasn't clean. Yeah. That's life. Or if they chose to go ripple or like cannon for that, as a choreographer, I don't know if that would have been the most effective place to put a cannon because of the sound is so minute and on the priority list of what your ear is listening for, as a viewer, that's a really hard cannon to justify on a live stage. So it would be better to make that unison. And it does feel like it was supposed to. It was just my side on stage right was off. So the drop down is fine. That swing. Is that Daisuke? Is that from our Mr. Replay, right? Maybe. The over there was fun. He does he molds in a little bit better here. His wave was not waving. We'll get to that when we see that there though, but he did well holding it down on his feature for that part. Pick up there. Da-da-da-da-da. Now, some of these guys, yes, I do recognize, but I can't tell you their names. I think those are the only two I'll be able to like confidently maybe say, just because of how it was structured in the episode. Anyway, so the lift up is fine. He walks around. The energy on that is fine. He pushes the energy out. He moves and deviates away. Good way to get your previous feature back in the formation. They go da-da-da-da-da, which is fine. And he has this moment, do-do-do-do. And then we do a little just snake with the head to get us back to center. And it goes da-da-da-da 100. I mean, that's fine. Let me see. Yeah, that's cute. And then that zoom, superstar. A lot of unison for some of our stuff. I mean, yes, we had for the previous section, we had somebody directly go the opposite, which was fine. But this whole section, hey, transition is fine here. I like with a pas de bourrée with his little extra, floating kind of dip in that, which was fun. And he goes nice and low. I like that they turn around, face the back. But notice here, some of our guys have our feet close together. Some have them separated. That changes the look entirely of the position. Because, yeah, so it's just little things like that. Because what happens is that if your legs are already out, it's just an upper body moving to the outside. But if your legs are in, there's a step out and an upper body moving out. So this is going to feel more full in nature and range on the stage right side compared to the stage left side. That's a cleanliness note. And then you have your center being featured, which is fine. He's nice and low. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't feel like we clean 100% of the way through, which for a competition is an expectation for sure. So, and then you have the little shoulders on that from one side to the other. It doesn't feel, notice here, the hinge over on the side, on the stage right side is significantly more full than the stage left side. Yeah. So there's little things like that. It doesn't feel as, it doesn't feel as rehearsed as some of the auditions did. Because the goal would be, okay, if this is your first string group, they would need to ideally be better than the audition groups that we had because we plucked the best from each group, right? But I also know from lived experience when you deal with all stars of a group, like if you hold an audition and you pick who you want, sometimes you're going to have, some overlap in performance, but you're going to have some different skill sets brought to the table, which is what we have here. And who the directors were picking, that was at their discretion, and they were looking for who they were looking for. They were trying to build their team for debut, which we all know this. For me, I had my own criteria, which I stand behind, and I was totally fine with uncovering and discovering alongside with you guys. but you're going to run into these problems naturally because they all come from different backgrounds. It's not the same as me holding an audition at a studio where all the dancers that are at the audition have trained together for an extended period of time. This is not the same thing. So you're going to be having people who have a really heavy vocal presence in comparison to movement quality presence and vice versa. And some have the full package, some don't, because of age or because of experience or this, that, and the other. Experience can really be helpful here, right? So that's a big note I'm going to give to this, is that you can see the holes in the skill sets because of the cleanliness. It's not as thorough. I have no idea who was in charge of cleaning it. If it was them, you're going to run into that. And then he has this moment there, nice little body roll on that. Yeah, I think that's JL, isn't it? And he ended up being in the center in the beginning too, wasn't he? Yep. So I guess my thing is too, for a group, you would want it to be, you don't just rely upon one person to carry the group. And to me, because we've had him, this is the second time we're seeing him, but we hadn't had everybody showcased yet for a competition of members in a team. That's the note that I'm going to give how it was distributed. Like and I'm allowed to feel that way. That's the thing. At the end of the day, I can feel however I want to feel on this, and that's okay. I'm always open to discussions and wanting to hear new things, just like you guys are free to have your own opinion too. So, but like for me, because of the competition and how I'm structuring it in my head on how these groups are formulated, your goal is everybody needs to hold it down to where I don't have to keep putting the same person in the front to hold it for us, right? Like I can put anybody there and they can hold it the way they need to. That's a solid group. So that's what I'm picking up on here. That's what it feels like to me. Whether or not that's the case, the fact we've seen JL again means, okay, we're relying a lot on him and we're having other people fill in at other places, which shouldn't be the case. And they rotate through. I like the little press up. The turn is fun. Gotta go. And then we have another guy switch out. So we're noticing him more, which is cool. The bleed is nice. He has a little accent. I do wish he had more performance and stage presence as he projects. It does feel like he can get lost a little bit in his own features. So that's the note I'm going to give him there. Could it just be preference on how I look for stage presence? Always. There's always a chance of that. So he comes up. I like to look through him. You pick it up. Yep, he has this moment. Nice little throw on that. The lift is fine. They rotate. 3, 2, 1. You see, once again, who's in front. Like, that's that love. And that is really of no fault to him unless he's the one who made that call, which is doubtful, honestly. So none of my notes are actually directed to the guys really at all outside of like movement quality stuff or just there's so many other teams of factors that go into these kinds of things. The song being chosen, the director's involvement, there's so many different things, right? So I'm going to stand by it. That love. So we bring it up. Nice little, body roll on that was fine. And we have some nice little tease moment. Once again, he knows where to look. It's great. We love that he's able to showcase and he's looking at his hand, so it allows me to look at the focal point too. It's great. Cool. Give me that. I like the little rose. It's a cute moment. And it goes in, out, and then we do a little body roll out of that. Do-do-doom. So instead of doing the rooftop that we ended up seeing wavy, they ended up doing more in like a squatted position, and then body rolling to and fro. So they had some of the dynamics of the torso still integrated, but different setups. The pulls are fun. That's fine. That little give me that 4 times doing the same thing. I mean, that's life. They go through, they lift over, little head accent. Some of us chose the head accent, some of us didn't. So that would be my note there. Little toe taps are fun. Nice feature moment because they're all facing low and back, which is fun. Hey, so I also find it interesting that with the wavy original, there are really fun ways to showcase a playful attitude. In this one, they have it structured where you shouldn't. Like, she needs to be serious the whole time, yet we're integrating cute, playful things. Then why do we rework it in this direction? It just makes me ask questions in that sense because it looks like they want to be playful in their feature, but it doesn't feel like it's immersing itself as effectively as if they went with the original concept that the track called for, right? So interesting. The slide through is fine, so I like how we go. Little toe taps with the hinge overs. I like the torso facing front. Looks nice. He says, come on, let's go. So this part here, they bring it up umber, they hit, and then they reset, ball change, head rotation. So that was nice. Now this right here, no idea what that was. I'm assuming he was trying to go for a full wave. That was not a wave at all. It was probably a hinge over, if that, with just weight distribution. You have to have an entrance and an exit, or you have to have clarity in the direction of the energy being put out. It really just looked like he just put his arms up and we hoped for the best. So that could just be a technical note that I'm going to give him if that was what we were supposed to do. If we weren't, maybe we'll see more clarity in the episode. We also got to keep that in mind. Whatever I'm seeing here is one take out of many. We're going specifically off of this take of full cam in our analysis. I like that skirt, so I like the hinge on that, which is fun. They reset, little head nod was fine. They bring it through, move through. So he has this moment, so they all walk out, and then we have our next feature. Cool. Yeah, it feels like some of our guys get featured so much more than other guys. I don't know if there was like a benefit that you get or something, but to me, that's not my favorite thing on a team format when everybody's supposed to be an equal like contributor to the group. Yeah, especially if you're gonna draft people out, like you can trade people. You really want to make sure everybody has equal representation, so you can clearly see who you want to keep on your team and who you want to trade. But if you don't give somebody an opportunity like other people, then it makes it harder to know if they're going to be a right fit for your group. So that's what I find interesting in the distribution of lines and features in this, is that it feels like we've already passed, like this is our group. It's not our official group. Like we still have so many people that can be contenders. You know what I mean? So like the 1, 2, 3, cool. And then we still have the JL over to the side. Okay, cool. A little kick around, a little twirl up, down, up. Not the cleanest over there on that stage right side again. They went too early. 3, 2, 1. I like the slide to help with that feature reveal. That love, give me your love. This feels a bit plateaued at this point compared to, it doesn't feel like we're sinking into the music. Call it a choreography note or whatever, but it's not, it doesn't give a memorable aesthetic about it because some of our choices, ooh, you know what I just noticed? Hold on. Hold on, let me look. Everyone's looking behind except for who? One person. That can be chalked up to many different things. He does look away at a lot of times. But little things like where your head goes, look where our weight is. Our weight is off. Do you know what I mean? There's little things, weight distribution, where our torso is being integrated, where our head is. Those are really important things whenever you're choosing to showcase a feature and you're having people compliment it, if you want it to be clean. So all of these notes I'm giving are there's cleanliness issues happening here, and it can affect the overall aesthetic of what you're going for, especially if you're doing a rework. People are going to have an extra degree of expectation. It's subjective. This is subjective art, everyone. They have no schema of criteria that they're actually realistically going off of, so my opinion is just as valid as theirs, like at the end of the day, because it just comes from our different backgrounds of what we look for. I thankfully am not in a position where I'm creating K-pop groups, because that's not something I'm really passionate about. I like looking at K-pop groups and celebrating their growth and movement quality, just like I do with my own students. So my field's a little different in scope, which I appreciate, but it's, you know, the preference is preference at the end of the day. That little little hand syncopated is fine. Then they have a little bleed, which is fine. Body roll. And then you have the two had their fun little moment there. The hoo-hoo. That give me that. I like the tap, the little twist on that. I like the tension moment, which was cool. His fit is pretty similar to this color palette. So I find it interesting that we don't have more people pursuing that palette, but also because we're doing a different concept essentially, this you want to deviate away from to a certain degree where you're inspired but not, you know, actually replicating. So like I understand all that. That little was fine. They go high low, which is cool. Yep, so this is, I think, the 4th time now we've seen JL in front as a feature, which is, once again, fine. He can hold it down every single time. It makes it more favorable to him, but to a lot of the other members, it's operating at a disadvantage for them. There's a higher chance that they can get traded. I like the reveal right here. That's fun. The little bridge recover, Daisuke, I think that is who that is. He did not technically do it. So that was two technique discrepancies that I'm noticing here. He did not do a full bridge recover, and it affected the timing. A little subtlety there. He's also wandering his eyes. Hold on. Yeah. Yo. So here's why I got a little bit excited about that. So Daisuke, I think that's who it is. I had a student way back in the day. It was quite a few years ago. And under adrenaline, this is a big thing. Under adrenaline, certain isms can happen. You look down on the ground. Your hands turn into noodles. You over tense. You end up marking the choreo versus going more full out. You go so full out that you lose control of the integrity of the movement. Or your eyes wander. So for me, seeing that's an adrenaline-ism that I bet you he doesn't do in rehearsal. Or he has to do that out of relying upon the other members to remember what's going on. Or it's a subconscious thing that happens whenever you're looking in the mirror. You may accidentally be clocking somebody without realizing you're looking at them to make sure that you know where you need to be. And then when you're on stage, because they're not there, you have to to make sure they're there. So that shows me a lot of information. It can be an adrenaline thing. It can also be how he practiced in the space. But that comes with time and having somebody tell you those things and workshopping a solution, right? I say all these things of trying to be helpful by noticing. I'm not saying this to say in any sort of critique. It's all observation, right? So that's a very interesting thing. It's been a hot minute. I don't think I've ever had anybody eyes wander like that on a K-pop affiliated analysis, which is why I got excited, because that's a real life thing I've experienced, but you don't experience it that often. So interesting. So the lift there, the little melts were fine. The connection, I like that moment. That was cool. Same note I'm going to give him. It doesn't feel as impactful. It feels like we're doing placement of movement and I'm featured because of the contrast of levels, not because of my charisma and performance quality. Once again, can chalk it up to my preference. That's fine. The melts were fine. The presentation over to the side, the turn is fine. 2, 1. Give me your love. Little high note over here. Cool. Little bow and arrow. And then love. That's fine. Some subtlety there. Could be cleaner, that section there, because even our weight shifts could be better. The Indian little top rock influence. So they go, give me that little rock back. He pulls them through. And they go, woohoo, woohoo. Yeah, and everybody's torsos are all different here. And it goes out and they hit over. So when you do choose to go unison, we are expecting there to be some sort of torso that is similar and the same, but everyone's were all different. So that's my note I'm going to give this. I'm so sorry if it felt a little bit more constructive than what you would want me to be. I'm trying to be honest. But yeah, I am excited to watch the episode though, to have a lot of my feedback refined. And that's normally what happens a lot of times. It's just from first watch, analysis, dive through, things like that. Okay. Next, we have Girls Never Die. This is the L Captain, the GOT7, group there. I think they're Team Beat, right? So this is the original. I don't think I've seen any Triple S material before. I do know there's a lot of members, as we see. I am pretty excited about this. Let's go. This is so fascinating how they're featuring everybody. I like the vibe of this track a lot. The scream, that was funny. any group could pull a mega crew concept every comeback, what a missed opportunity is what that felt like, right? We did a lot of unison, but man, I mean, I know this is not what this video is, but we gotta talk about it. I love the numbers. That's a mega crew competition number. But man, did we not have a ton of levels to really help advocate and create really dope framing visuals. I bet the top priority was get everyone featured, is what that felt like, right? Oh man, that was so interesting. Goodness. Okay, here we go. Boys Never Die. This is Team B. Ready? Turn it up. Here we go. What are we gonna do? Also reworked, which is absolutely fine. We're struggling with regulating stability in our vocals. They got more of a rooftop in theirs than the Wavy group did on the Wavy track. So interesting. Wow, okay. So this one ran into different issues than I think the first group did, which makes me so curious about the benched teams, because there's going to be an extra degree of drive, an extra degree of we got to get our mess together or we can get eliminated. Like there's that, like I'm telling you, that's a really interesting place to be on a competition show like this, because for them, all they have is like the worst thing to happen for them is they drop. Right, but the other team, the worst they have is either get eliminated or go up. Like they have a way to go up. They have to maintain, which makes it harder, honestly, that mentality. Their issues that I noticed in observation would be the stability on vocals, and they were giving that rookie energy fullness, and there was no depth, once again, in the choreography execution. There are ways that you can do it, but it felt very plateau on energy. But the type of track, you could totally do a push and pull vibe. All of them chose to commit to it, but because of the instability of vocals, it actually made it feel like we went too full out. We weren't ready for that. And the track, I don't think, needed that either. So, man, this is just so interesting, so fascinating to talk through. And I hope you guys realize too, if you've been on my channel for a hot minute, when it comes to K-pop choreos, like when I watch a K-pop group in a marathon format, I'm looking for very different things compared to a competition. When we're looking at a competition, they are being ranked, they are being judged. I'm trying to provide some rhyme or reason as to why a certain group may score a certain way based on the lens of how it was done, right? Just from a different lens than who you have on the show. Take what I say with a grain of salt. to, like, guys, I'm human and I have preferences. That's life. And I have no criteria to go off of on this outside of literally what we saw before. Did that match the taste? Did the rework match the taste? I think the rework definitely paid tribute for sure. And part of it does come from the fact that El Captain was able to do the rework for both. Like, that's kind of dope. Like, they have that ability. So they have that advantage, this team does, right? That other teams don't. So it's interesting. Then he goes, how you now? And he goes, can't deny. I think everybody did the head except for my first guy up front, which is super interesting, right? Yeah. And then we have the breath. They sound tired now, is what this sounds like to me. And it could just be the movement itself, but like how they sound together, it sounds like we're really tired and we have to talk, right? It doesn't feel like a da-da-da. You know, like it doesn't have that smoothness about it. It could just be me though. The bleed up, the down, like really, really full. We have no off button on our 100 degree, like, our 100% energy, right? It worked for Siren. I think that's my guy right there. Is that Mr. Siren that we saw from, that group last week? And I said, when I went 3 for 3 on Siren, I'm telling you guys, I felt really good about that when I saw that in the episode. He ended up going to beat because they were looking for a main dancer. But that worked. The fullness worked in Siren. It doesn't work here because there's not timbres and tonal colors to justify the fullness. That's why. So that's why for me, it's so quiet and intimate, but we're going so full in our phrasing. Not a choreography note, that's an execution note that I'm given on that. Then it goes, can't deny. The bleed up is fun. I like that. Never die. Throw down. That part was fun. Tashi. 해보자. And then it goes, higher now. And that part, like the pulse on that is fine, you know, and how it was built. They go down. I like the subtlety there. That's great. The little step was fun. Here we go. And it goes dun, 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 dun. And so we're picking it up. Little pot of berets on that. Now this part, percussion. Do, drop it down, picking it up. La, 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 la. So all this looks fun. They're definitely on the cleaner side. So if we're going off of straight up cleanliness, they do have a cleaner, in general schema and how they rehearsed it. So I can appreciate that. Bringing it down. I like the build up on that. That was fun. And then they also have more dynamics than what the Triple S one did. So we got to give them that too. Yeah. And this one feels like it kept the at least not concept, but it kept the general vibe. And it was inspired, but it kept the general vibe of the original. Part of it could come from it's El Captain who did it, right? And I think for me, that could be a preference that I'm leaning into more for this challenge. But it's something that's not clarified to me, so that's why I'm operating in that. So I apologize if that's an improper place to place my expectation. That's okay. I'll get it refined in the episode if it needs to be that way. But rotation over, swing down, the pickup is fine. That was nice on range. I like that we go, we high. I like that. That was really nice. It was a rooftop with a body roll. That move right there was in the wavy give me that I remember was modified or shifted at least in the lower half by the team. So interesting. I like the taps. So the focal point was, we had some very interesting moments in this beginning. It was really nice. And then a little shamrock moment was fun. And we move forward. And we have this little bleed over, which is cool. Contrast and levels is nice. I like the little reach up. The melts are fun. That's fun. And then you have one of our members contrast over. He brings it over. I already said my big note, stability on vocals. Like, he was fine. It was like maybe 1 or 2 hiccups. But there was one section where it was off pitch is what it felt like to me. Right? Yeah, jump. We run through. I like that little body roll moment. That was fun. And then step, tap, and the reach is also fine. And it goes to 3 over, so I think spacing could have been a smidgen better here. You have your next feature over on the side. Yeah, boom, and then the percussion, we're choosing to hit the percussion with more of wider, like, straight-armed perspective, which is totally fine. I like that we're able to clearly hear the percussion get brought back in on those types of movements. So that's why a lot of times choreography can help you listen out for certain sounds that you wouldn't be able to really accent or appreciate if the choreo wasn't calling for it. So that's why choreo is really fun. It also feels like the camera is... Well, no, I think it's just the camera's vantage point. I think it needed to go up a little bit more on the tripod or whatever in order for us to really see their feet, but whatever. And they go low, mid, high, so that's fine. We've kind of already seen a lot of that variance is fine. I like the little knocks on the chest was fun. Hitting it over. Boom, bum, 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 bum. But we don't, a lot of them don't have anything going on performance, so it doesn't allow me any clarity on what are we looking for? Like, what is our emotional intention on this? How are you going to guide me? Like, what's the point of the choreo for you? Because you're not showing me anything here that allows me to think, are you enjoying what you're doing? Am I supposed to see that you're enjoying it? Am I supposed to see that you're in angst about it? Are we just on cloud nine, having a good time, good vibes? Show me that. That's what performance is, especially when you have a camera that's going to be in your face about it. And a lot of your general public's going to be looking at the bust up. They're not going to be looking at all the things that we look at here, because I look at the general, like, spacing, I look at the formations, I look at a lot of things that most people, like, a lot of people just will not care about. That's okay. That's the beauty of having differing insights, right? So I think spacing could be a smidgen improved over here on the stage left side, because it's giving the, I know my guy in tenor is supposed to be my feature, but because my guy over here is, I mean, just enough of an outlier on the spacing on this formation, it makes me feel like he's my feature, even though he's not. It's just because of the mirrored, it's just off on the spacing, but that's life. Remember, I have no idea if these are the takes that the directors got to see. It could be very different. Who freaking knows? Anyway. Now, I like the tap, tap, taps are fine. The switch over there is nice. And then Shamrock. And then we move to the new spot. And then dance break. Okay, so hold on, let me see. Nice little round. It was like a little roundhouse kick. It was super cool. I like the accent kick down on the ground. They come up, and then they do a little pas de bourrées, and they're pushing it from one side to the other. And they go down, up. Now, the reason why this doesn't really feel like out of place, per se. It doesn't feel like it's contributing as effectively as I think the intention was. It could be because of the structure of the choreo leading up to this point, which would be a no that I would give to Triple S too, but that really has nothing to do with them, more so to do with the composition. And we have no idea how much time these guys had to work on these. We have to remember that too. I'm going off of, this is permanent on the internet. Most people are going to watch this and have no idea how long they took to rehearse this. They're just looking at what they look at. So I have no idea if they had a day, they had a week, a month to work on this. Doubtful that it's a month. Most of the time it's a week, if that. So very impressive the fact that we can get it together this quickly in general, but it's still a note to be had. In the real world, sometimes you only get 6 days, right? Like Born to Be Itzy, they had 6 days to get their mess together to do the mega, you know? So it's like, you got to pick your battles on that. With Triple S, I have no idea how long they had for that composition. My note still stands, though. I think that we could have had so many level opportunities. Oh my gosh, you had the numbers for it. Oh, it was like a kid in a candy store on the mega side. Anyway, but here, you're dealing with a group of 7, so there's a lot of unison leading up to this point. So it's hard for me to appreciate the content modification because they're going this degree of fullness leading up to it. So it doesn't feel like as much of a contrast as I think they were intending for my palette, of my expectation. The pickup is fine. I like the little rock down, which was nice. Shampoo through. The throw is fine. This little moment here, that reminds me of there's a choreo by To Us that I think has this. Was it the maybe that? I don't know. That feels out of place to me. Range is off too. The angles are off on that, and also it doesn't feel calibrated because it's considered a focal point on another track in a Gen 5 K-pop sense, which of course they don't own that move, but in my head I'm so saturated in seeing this. I don't even know if it's To Us, so I'm sorry if I was off on that, but this is a focal point choreo that I remember have seen, which is really fun. It's very playful, but for this type of track this doesn't make as much sense in how the ball changing structure of it feels in comparison to some of the other movements they could have placed there. And using it as a transition, having the arms also not properly angled doesn't feel as complete either. The throw is fine. I like the reach. It's like, this was a cool moment. I love that, where we hit, he drops it down, accent. So that does tie into what we saw earlier. So I liked that fingerprint a lot. Goes high-low. I like his little kicks. Also a fun little moment. Hitting it forward, boom, boom, boom. Now, is there a chance that there's a member or two that's sticking out more so than other members in this? I would say yes, but I think it's because I was so, there's a couple individuals that just like were placed in the same spots in that first one, and they had significantly different fits. It was easier to catch. Here, it's harder to catch who's in the same spot, same features as much. So I apologize if I sound like a hypocrite. If they're doing the same thing that the first group is, I'd give the same note if I noticed it. So keep that in mind. A little knock-knock, that was fun, with the little piano notes on that, which was fun. Now this part here, I have no idea if he was able to clean it up for the actual performance or what. This is not structured as effectively for him. The steps on there are fine. Yeah, it sounds like he's out of breath, he's tired, and he's just trying to push through is what that sounds like. It doesn't sound like he has full confidence of that spot. Especially when you hear right after it, right? I would say he's sticking out a little bit. Like we're seeing him a lot. The reach up was fine. Range could be improved. I liked how we in formation had those two mirrored going out and going to their next spot. So that was cool. Nice little knock on that, which was cool. The grab, we're not regulating our stability. So that's a note that I'm giving there. I really hope that they were able to refine that in the live performance. The meltdowns were fine. A little spread out's fine. I like the little fringe, a little pata. You know, like you could tell when they, you see their fringe go up. I think it's kind of fun. The kickball change is nice. Nice little high note coming over on stage left. La la. So I like the fullness on that. That's great. Some of us are choosing to use our head. Some are choosing to go front. That's how you can tell if someone's really going for it or not, is if they're using their head. So is that too much? I think other facets, no one sticks out like they're overperforming to this. Like I have caught in other cases before, not in the show, but just in general, especially in 5th gen, I've noticed it. But little head placements you can pick up more so on that, like who's using their head and who's not, and was that something practiced in the space? This shows me no. And then one of us didn't fully rotate around when another guy did, so be a little note there. Now he's deviated away, so we have a little high note over here on the side, and the sweep around we go, we high, like the high. That was fun. Running forward, the little knock on that with a tap once again. So I would say he did pretty well on the stability. It did sound like he was struggling out of the two is what it sounded like, right? And then one of my guys, I was wondering, I was like, he ended early. No, he dropped his hand, made it very clear that he's our feature for that last bit. But let's hear this again. La, la, la. Yeah, so I think my guy right here, at least in this take, he saved that last bit. He sounded very, very tired, right? So that's my note that I'm giving to this group. Compared to the first group, it was a cleanliness thing, heavy on lack of clarification on movement, for sure, especially on the technique front, because as an individual who looks at K-pop, I do call it out, especially if you're trying to do a concept or you're trying to do a grouping of technique and you're not doing it correctly. It gets talked about here on the channel. So I can't be exempt from that just because they're contestants on a show. If anything, we have to really be mindful of it, because if we want them to not get thrown under the bus on Reddit in the future, like that's a real thing. People are honest on Reddit. I want to help advocate to help them kind of avoid that strife, right? Then we got to talk about it here, right? No one's exempt from it. Even the best of the best. 10, I've talked about some of 10's movement discrepancies too. So it's like, no one is exempt from this. It's really fun. And neither am I. We can roast me all day long too. Goodness. But in the end, here, he has this like, we go, let's do it again. He's whenever he says that, I think it's like, let's do it again or something again. Dashi 해보자, right? To me, it sounds like he doesn't want to do it again because he's too tired. That's what that felt like. It didn't feel as convincing. So this is just so interesting seeing this challenge. Okay, here we go. This is B2B 그리워하다. His shoes and sock selection for this freaking concert. Oh my god. Oh, I match with the purple. They performed this on Kingdom Legendary War, didn't they? But not as a full group, obviously, right? Angsty microphones. Come on. Melody! Put that hand on your hip. Oh man. I am very intrigued on how this song got reworked for this competition. Key change! Flower petals. Yeah. Finish that out. Thank you. Oh, that's fun. Okay, here we go.
내 마음 여전해 아직 너를 원해 5년이 지나도 난 아직 널 그리워해 난 아직 기억해 우리 집 봤을 때내 옷차림 그 머리 스타일 다 정확해
What a riff! The handheld mics!
내게 나 엉망이 돼버렸어 책임져 아무렇지 않은 척 이루어진 표정도는 모든 곳에 스며든 네 흔적도 다 책임져 아직도 나 잊을 수 없나 봐 다시 돌아와줘
Wow, that's impressive, honestly. So out of the three teams, I think this one should, if we were to rank them, just team first strings, this was top freaking tier. Like, this one should win if it's a winning, you know, which team won, for sure. Lordy, that was really well done. Now, some people, like, I am an active practitioner of dance, right? I can really empathize with movement quality. As a choreographer, this genre of music is the style that I typically do waving, isolation, animation, boogalooing, and popping fundamentals on. So I'm very familiar with how these structures of techniques in choreography sequences compared to the other ones. I'm very familiar with this. As lived day-to-day competition experience, that's what I have. Now, I can be much stricter on that because of my lived experience in it. Right? I mean, I've lived experience in all the styles, but this style more so than others. So I have in other K-pop analysis, when they do choose to go like that contemporary essence ballad route with an interpretive technical execution of choreo, sometimes it's a hit or a miss. A lot of times there's not really an in-between on it. I think P1 Harmony had a track similar to that I, you know, was very constructive on, but for different reasons. But here, I like how it was structured a lot. It was very impressive. The waving was really nice on this. Like, it was full. And we did talk, seeing waving in some of the other ones, that was a note given, right? And so this one, it still keeps the fingerprints of the original, kind of like the El Captain one, but it has, you know, it did allow more timbres introduced into the track to allow more movement to be had as well. They were more stable. The spacing, I think, could have been better. Of course, all of them had some spacing issues. All groups did. Stability, some of them were a little bit off. But when it comes to composition, this one felt like the most complete group out of them all. And no, it's not because their routine is simpler. No, if anything, they have handheld mics, so we do hear them sing. That's an advantage and a disadvantage. Also, having a handheld mic, your movement quality, like your movement choices can get cut off because you have to always think about this, right? Whenever you see Jungho in ATEEZ, a lot of his movements have to be refined or they have to be adjusted because he has a mic in his hand, right? I mean, I feel like a lot of them choose to have it in their hand and some don't. So that's a risk. And then the techniques, because it's a slower, kind of slower BPM, there's not as many timbres to distract you and saturate your ear. There's more, like, you can really look to see, are they doing a technique correctly or not? Like, there's a slower pace, and so it's more digestible. Still showcases a degree of complexity for sure, but it's like they had a lot of things that really helped contribute. They weren't just relying upon content. It wasn't overly unison, because with unison, that is fine if you choose to do it, but what you're doing is you're asking for people to look at your unison and uniformity with a microscope, comparing you to each other versus appreciating the cleanliness in what you're doing. It's always a risk the longer you go on a unison section. So they had a lot of breathing points, a lot of depth. Their choreo felt like it matched the depth. It wasn't too loud, and I hope you guys saw this in that way. It's not too loud. Compared to that second group, it felt too loud in movement. So the subtlety there, notice a simple head goes a long way. When you have everybody do something subtle, you can see it. The lifting of the arm was nice, rotating through, da-da-da-da-da-da. I do wish that this was a little bit more refined and center, but I saw what we were going for, though. Body roll was fine. I like that we sit and actually had a finishing place on the body rolls to finish that out. The complexity. The complexity in the guitar, they matched it. Really nice musicality moment. And then I like the levels of contrast from the jump. It provides some sense of depth and space, right? So I like how we reset, and then we go and we travel, and we take the trace down the thigh to bring it around the knee, and then we accent our energy, boom, before we transition into a V. Doesn't surprise me, but the B2B choreo, like, performance feels the strongest. I had a feeling that there was a chance that this one was gonna, like, whatever it was, because the type of discography you're working in, right? Wavy doesn't really, I don't think Wavy gets as much of a say on their tracks like B2B does, right? And then Triple S, they're giving it. So it's like, I think there's a mix of Wavy and Triple S have to match whatever concept they're given. I know with the NCT side, they're just given tracks. But with B2B, I don't know as much on the self-production side, but it feels like there's more investment that they're allowed in the routine from the composition side in comparison to the other two groups that we saw. But I could be so wrong, and I apologize for that if I am wrong, but B2B's got their own company. You know what I mean? So that's why also in my head, there's a more well-rounded perspective going in on the director of this team, because he has been a part of a company like Cube. He also, it's the singing. He focused on the singing. What he was looking for may work in his favor for who he picks, because stability. He looked for people who had really good potential in the vocal side, people that he can work with, right? And so it's just so interesting, isn't it? And I'm excited for the other people, do not get me wrong, but I find that he may operate at a subtle advantage on what he's looking for, because we got to see it here. They were more stable on the vocals. So I like from there, they do the slide. I like the contrast and the directions on that. So whoever they got to choreograph it, the composition's really well done and thorough. They drop down, it's cool, because we all know they ain't got this kind of choreo. Subtlety is nice. They represent. Notice it's conversational. Conversational meaning that we're going off of the natural essence of our palette and how we converse in our hands, right? Whenever we're moving, it's not super, we're not arguing, so we don't want this huge, big, full-out movement. If it's subtle, we're talking about something internal, you want to think more internal with your movement. That's a really nice way to kind of counter it. If you're curious as to what's deemed too loud in movement and too soft, think about if you're having a conversation with somebody with this song, with the type of instruments behind it, just like we watch movies and there's certain music that ties into a scene that helps us perceive the scene in a certain way, horror movies, joy, like chick flicks, whatever, that's how you treat your movement in a track as well, is that I don't want my movement to be too loud when I'm not shouting. Right? It's little things like that. It's so fun. So I really like the subtlety. They take it over. They're relying upon everybody holding what they need to do in order for it to be readable. So these are all a lot of bleeds, speed changes, and breaths. So it's really important that everybody knows the timing, and the range really matters here. It's a higher risk that it's going to be off. So they were also the cleanest too. The wave there, boom. I like me a good wave. Now, whether or not they went through the fingers, couldn't tell you because they have a mic in their hand. And I like that they have a little interruption with the expanding across, and they use that to turn. New little reveal. He pushes through. I like the little breath on the hand. The subtlety right there is also really nice. So they match the energy pretty well. They turn around. I love that, going into a window transition, which is really nice. The subtlety over. I like the fact that we are transitioning and we're not moving, like facing our back to the audience for that moment. We're just taking it. We're absorbing the formation. I think that was really fun. And then he brings it over. I like his subtlety. His mannerism matches what we ended up seeing earlier. So that was cool. And then I bring it over. I like the 1, 2, 3. And then we bleed it through to finish the phrase, and we reset front. And then he has a little knock on the heart going into our just a little diagonal. And then they sweep it up. So we have 2 diagonals, which is nice to see. Then they just do a little bevel, just bring it to the inside, and then they slide it to the back. And you have a, yeah. And it goes high to low. He started a little too early, but because he's a feature, you're allowed a little bit more concessions with that. He goes da-da-da, and then they go ba-da-da-da-da. They went on the secondary section of his syllables. He went on the first, so that's why his timing looked different. And then that could have helped us clock him as a feature outside of him just popping out as an outlier in the formation. It could be a mix of those things. Or it could just be, that was just a fluke. And it goes, sigh, sigh. So I like that they all did a little response out of that on when you hear everybody doing it makes sense, right? And then I like the little rock down, which is really fun. So there showed fullness there, but there was percussion to justify it, right? So that was cool. And it goes, so right. So I like the subtlety there. Now let's go back. See, now I'm curious. Yeah, there's that bass. You hear it? That boom, boom. So they hit the basses with the knees. Over, all right. And I like the little rock on that. And everybody's range is in check. And it makes it so much more desirable to appreciate whenever the range is in check. And when I talk about range, it's not the A and the B. It's how you get from one move to another move. A lot of people forget to clean that because you think, okay, extremities are all in check. But how I'm getting there is half the battle. Just like your transitions matter just as much as your focal points. In a fixed cam like this, how you get to your spot matters a lot in comparison to a performance video that we saw for the title track work, right? So it's a big thing for me. I'm a huge advocate for make your transitions matter because so many people, so many choreographers in the field neglect those. So I love that we actually make them a priority in how we're getting to our moves a priority here too. And there's way more room for issues on this one. The rotation through, then the hit, and then they rotate it up and around, which is nice, and then they ball change it. This was really interesting how they chose to drop it, and he lowered himself as well, so he's still the feature. There's not a huge contrast, but it's still contrasted, but they all dropped the level collectively. That was very interesting, and look how clean the lines are on the arms. Note would be, of course, if you wanted to be even more specific, how you're holding the mic, make that mic disappear. So have it actually facing away from you, but because he stuck it out, it looks a little different, right? But because of the cleanliness, I'm actually very impressed by how clean this line is, because you were seeing in some of the other routines, some of these angles were off, and it really does affect the overall picture and look, even if you're center. So it's so interesting, right? I like the conversational, just knockdown is fun. They're down, nice and subtle. He crouches up, and that was really nice, clean transition from one feature to another, which actually justifies why we lowered everybody's level, even though we had a contrasting element. That was cool. I really, really like the structure of this choreography. And the slides. And am I going to negate the fact that it could be, I mean, part of me feels like I'm stricter on this style because I live it and I compete this choreographically in my own field. So that's why I can be much stricter on it. That's life. It happens because I'm so saturated in it. Or I can be more gracious to it whenever I see it done well, or I see it done in a way that is palatable and does feel successful. Like, I can see it swing either way. I'm a human at the end of the day. Please remember that. And you don't have to agree with me. That's okay. None of our opinions have any skin in the game unless we're there voting, right? Like, I'm not a director. They didn't call me and ask me my opinion. You guys did ask me to continue watching the show, and here we are, you know? So that's just what we're living and enjoying. So, but yeah, this is definitely really well structured for the group. It was a smart call. And they'll look over, like the hit over, and I like how we knock it right there to the head. We rotate it and bring it up. And then we go when we place the hands, and I like the little knock going on with the trace, and then we end up finishing the rotation. So we have speed changes on integrating one arm versus two. Really nice to see there. Little punch, and we pull it in. So I like these little duet moments as well. It's fun. It showcases not just a 1 point feature, but 2 point features. I think they did more 2 point features than most of the other groups did. So I liked that, and I appreciate that. And it helps with the responsibility of the routine as a whole. It makes it feel more like a team. So I think that's why I like it. It is that I don't know. It just feels like to me everybody held it down very effectively in their, like, I feel like they were seen for what they're good at, and we were able to really utilize it and not depend on it. Does that make sense? Where in other teams it did feel that way. It's okay if that happened and it gave me that perception. I'm excited for the growth of everybody involved, right? So I like that this one feels very much like everybody has to hold it down and pull their weight, and everyone did. It's really cool. And they sweep around is really cool. I love the LED on this. It's so freaking magical. Yep, and it goes bleed, 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 bleed. And I like the subtle look up is also nice. They push it to the back, and then you do a little body roll, and we hit, knock it. We shoot those arms out, and I love this little extra pull and tug on it too. There's this residual pull. Speed change on the tail end of it is really nice. And hit, da-doom, right there on the base, which is nice. And then they have the knees. Da-da-da. Could be a smidgen cleaner on that part. And they push it over. Dropping it down. And a lot of people think that because they're moving slower, there's more tension and speed changes, that it's easier to sing. Yes and no. It depends on if your body's conditioned for it. I think that's a really big thing. I have no idea if these guys are conditioned in the style. My body is, but could I sing and dance at the same time? God, no. I haven't trained that skill set, and that's okay. I have trained dancers who sing, and I've trained singers who dance. I've trained both, and I have been that before, but I'm not that now because I'm a choreographer and a dance educator, and I love what I do. And so, but I empathize with it to a certain extent. But going back to the style, doing this style and singing, there's more technical demand, I think, that's asked of you here in the niche of technique that you're being asked to do. There's a lot of tension, like there's a lot of reliability that everybody has to be on the same page, because if somebody's off, you can really see it here on whether somebody's ability to do a wave is seen or not. And the type of fullness that's being asked of you is more of an outlier accented, and everybody has to be on the same page. There's way more communication of movement that is required, I feel, here. The other ones felt pretty plateau because everyone was going the same energy in their routines. Part of it was the structure of the content, but also how it was being executed. Here, there is so much of this that you have to have. There's no if, ands, or buts on it, especially on a competition like this. You have to have this, or people are just going to say, oh, they cheated. They just sang. No, they didn't. They did movement too. And they had more believability in the conversational elements of the routine than the other two teams did, for my personal preference on the types of concepts that ended up happening with each team. So that's also from a Western lens, from a dance analyst lens, from what I'm saturated in the K-pop sense. That's how I feel. That's okay that I feel that way. I like the switch up, ba-boom, up, and then I like the bleed of it, and I like how we have this little extra breath. Letting the sternum be secondary on that is really nice. A lot of breath on this. It doesn't look fake. It doesn't look like we're just pushing through and trying our best to say we are communicating our perspective collectively, not just one person, but all 7. Then we have our moment, and then we go and we branch the arm out to the side, and then we bring it down. And that little bass was so interesting too. So there was some really interesting elements in this that I was like, oh, you know, I like that, and they end up rotating it to help bleed the energy out to the next phrase. So I like this body roll. I do think spacing could be better. Ooh, whoa, what did I just do? Oh, I made a shortcut on accident. Okay. Spacing right here. That. So we have these two guys pretty close together. You have a trio, right? And then the spacing here is fine. It's just it's just a bigger gap between the second and the third group. So that would be my note there. But it got a little bit better here. And then we have a post. And it goes rotating. It's fun. The turn through is nice. Now, yes, they had more of a cutesy, gimmicky vibe that happened right there. It didn't feel as out of place as the wavy one did, but it just goes back to concept and how it was integrated out of inspiration, right? So there's that. So they take it over in the branch over, up and around, and they have this little body roll, and then they go and reset. So nice. And it's pray for you, da da da, and it goes on every day, which is fine. Now this song, honestly, it does remind me of da 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 da, the first time Taylor Swift song. We are never ever getting back together. That's what it is. Yep. So if you were Swiftie, I hope that was a fun little like tie to you for this. That's what this song reminds me of. Okay, moving on. So I like the range on that, and brush is fun. And it goes, yeah, I like the power and energy in our choices when we do choose to hit the bass. And we walk, once again, we have a duo that's helping on a harmony side. Yeah, it's just nice. And they rotate through, brum, brum, and I like how we drop it down. Nice percussion that's presented as a priority, so our movement becomes a little bit more full there. Dropping in the level helps showcase our features very well. And then from there, really nice how they all came back up. My center is my next feature, so the feature choices is really nice and very seamless. It actually catches you off guard, but your eye naturally goes to the feature. So that's the composition really is good here. Yep, and the sweep around is cool, and they push it, so I like that we present our energy to the front, and we bleed, and then we come right back up, and then we have our energy, up, and then we cross it behind the back, and then we throw the arm and bring it in, and I like the contrast with the elbows on that too, which is cool, and bleed, and then we bring it up with the knees. I think that part was a little bit cleaner, but it could just be formation and how it was introduced again. Could be that. Then you do a little switch out, and then they bleed out to the inside. Now I am curious about this. Okay, so everybody did the arm accent, and then we bled it all the way to the inside. Cool. Then tension, then it goes doom doom. The syncopated, goodness, come on now. With tension, and then we bleed out of it, which is nice. Then we walk. I do wish we had a good tempo walk, but that's just more wishful thinking. You don't really have to have that. So it goes forward. It has this little moment. It does feel a smidgen labored here, but it could just be one of many factors. It doesn't feel as labored as other labored sounds we've been hearing in this analysis. So it's pretty decent, but that would be if there would be an area or a feature that could have more refined tone, it would be here. But Yeah, it's just all about regulating, and it takes time and more performances. You just get better at it. What's impressive though, I love that the knocks. They have these two interact him at the top to knock him on the knees, and then the knees they push him, and it was pretty stable considering he just got knocked to the floor. Pretty good. Like that's hard to do. And I like the switch up on that. So of course I think it would be great to make that a little bit more seamless how he transitions out if we do choose the column to cover him. I think a good example of that was Issy. I just watched it was a live performance of Sorry Not Sorry and Mafia in the Morning. They did like a live excerpt on that. One of the transitions from one feature to another was really dope, where they had it was blank with all the dancers. Like you didn't see the dancers, you just saw the flag bearers, and they go across, and then you had a completely new member there. But normally you would see that member get set up, but you couldn't even see her behind the flag bearers, which was really impressive. So I love whenever we do a nice like member reveal, but that's what that setup reminds me of in context. So that's why there's a subtle expectation that we were expecting that. So seeing him there is just a little note of that could be a little bit more refined in how he chose to get up. Right? And then they branch away, and they branch, even though he's my feature there in that moment too, which is cool. And so I like the fact he was able to get up, and I like the push-aways are nice. And then you have, once again, two people helping and carrying the weight of the group. Like I really do like that. I think that's very smart for this, where it showcases like we're not gonna lose out on the vocals. I know there's the vocals line, like the pride of the vocals is on the line because of the team, like who's in charge of the team. I get that. But then and I can see with Wavy's team, the performance, we can't be outperformed, and then in the beat team, we can't be outproduced. Like I feel like each one has their preference, right? That's what they established in episode 1. And then there's that kind of pride on the line from the directors. And so I think out of the 3, I mean, they held it down pretty well on that for sure. I think spacing could be a smidgen better on that stage left side. The only reason why I say that is because it's very clear and readable, the contrast, but here it feels like he's trying to avoid hitting him. So that's just a little note there. The pull out, and they drop it, they walk. Here's this moment. He could have really like popped off, and I'm glad he didn't, because the music doesn't ask for that. It asks for a boom. It's very, intimate here, right? So having an intimacy in our choices is nice. I like the hinge around, which is cool. A little coffee grinder, we call it a sweep. And then I like the little press down. He kind of buckled the knee, and I really like that choice. He comes up, and then he hits it. Boom, boom. Where have I seen that? I've seen this before. I couldn't even tell you where, though. Could be like in my real life. Where have I freaking seen this? I've seen that somewhere. Anyway, I like the choice. It's cool. I like the familiarity of it. I like this room. That was cool. And then they're continuing. Do you see what I see? They're not frozen. They're continuing to move. So there's still breath happening in the routine. There is still life in the routine. It is not frozen. And we're stuck in place waiting to move, and we're out and freeze tag, right? So I like that. I do, preferentially, I wish that there was a different way that we got broken into this, maybe another sound to introduce the speed change to get back up, but that's just a personal preference. I'm not projecting that onto them. That's just my feelings on it. But I like the intention of it. We're gonna give it that. Dun-dun. And then we got one person singing melody, 2 of them belting away. Now you got 3 people taking responsibility, not just 2, and which I like for a team challenge, which is what I feel this is, or I'm treating it that way. Team challenge. This team operated very well together. On whoever was in charge of the distribution, they made it to where it's a team that makes it work, because you had multiple times where it wasn't just one person being featured, which a lot of the other tracks, it's just set up that way. This track, you have more freedom to build it up like this because it's B2B. So I think this is a really good song choice that actually worked well in how they ended up meshing with it. And the little knock is fun, and they double it up and they pull it to the inside. Yeah, it has a nice little moment there. And a step, which is also really nice. Knocking it down. They place it to the subtlety. He freaking took it and grabbed his mic. That was really cool. Risky, but I like the confidence. That was cool. I love that. And then he brings it up. And I wonder if the reason why he did that is because of the arm that we chose to do. Oh, hold on. That's interesting. Did this side choose to go with the left arm? Interesting. So that's the range was right, but the actual arm was different. But that shows you with getting this momentum right, whatever arm you choose to do, it's pretty, I mean, that's pretty interesting. That could have been cleaner, and I think that could be a reason why it wasn't as clean as I think it could have been, is because we used different arms. But the rotation was there. Very fascinating. And then the press down, which is really cool. They double, da-doon, and I like the little reach up is also nice. And we present, I love the little twinkle twinkle over on the side, which is nice. They bleed it down. So I like this little moment here. I like the little switch up here because they ended up doing this for the B2B1, right? So I like that moment. That's cool. And we walk. Very, very nice and stable in this element that he's doing here. Well, walks. Love me a good walk on tempo with some angst. Come on now. See? You see how nice walking on tempo can be? It feels intentional, and then we all bevel, like a ballad bevel is what we would call that, to our spot, and then take our energy, and I like the different directions, so we take it to our heart. Very well done. Out of the 3 teams, this one's going to be my preference today. I think they won, to me, by a large margin on multiple fronts of what I was looking at. But also remember, I'm not a director, even though I have experience auditioning people, experience analyzing movement quality for an extended period of time, looking at audition shows, looking at competition shows, ranking down to the 100th. It's a preference at the end of the day. There's no schema that we're being asked to go under. I mean, outside of what we're told, and the directors can pick whoever they want at their discretion. And what they hear, what they watch is going to be so different than what we get on video. The only way we're going to truly know is if we're physically there voting or if we're the director themselves in that experience. So I want you to keep that in mind. If my opinion is different than yours, love that. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your picks were and why. And if there's an interesting piece of insight that you think would be really fun for me to know, I would love to hear it. But keep in mind, I will be watching the episode in due time. By the time this gets released onto YouTube, hopefully I would have started watching the episode, but I don't know. But I'm excited to dive into this, into the round, and just to see the growth, not just of these teams, but to also see what the benched teams do, because there is a chance that some of them may pull upsets because of that drive and momentum and motivation of like, we don't want to go home. So I'm totally here for all this. Y'all know me, I know you. I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.